And here we go with another episode of Muscles and Magic the Gathering. Now, if you're here, it's because you want to learn how to build the best poison counter deck of all time, or you want to learn how to build a better Atraxa Praetors voice. I would argue that those two things are one in the same. If I was building an Atraxa Praetors voice deck, I would build it around the poison counter feature, but that's just me. But you're also here because you love people who have a passion for Magic the Gathering. You love cool cards. You love synergies. You love combos. And you love learning. So without further ado, welcome to Muscles and Magic the Gathering. I'm Bobby Maximus. I am the Muscles. These cards, Magic the Gathering, something that's been a huge passion of mine for 30 years. But I don't want to waste any more of your time. Let's get right down to business and talk about our commander, Atraxa Praetors voice. Flying, Vigilance, Death Touch, Lifelink. A whole bevy of tremendous abilities. But the most important thing on this card, at the beginning of your end step, Proliferate. It's a green, white, blue, and black commander. So we will have green, blue, white, and black cards in this deck. Our first Planeswalker up, Vraska, Betrayal, Sting. For 0, you can draw a card and you lose 1 life and you proliferate. There's a ton of cards in this deck that take advantage of the Proliferate feature. The -2 ability, target creature becomes a treasure artifact with tap 1, sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, and then it loses all other card types and abilities. A great way to take somebody else's creature off the board, so to speak. And then if target player has fewer than 9 poison counters, they get a number of poison counters equal to the difference. So that is our Planeswalker. Now let's talk about our creatures. We have Elesh Norn, the mother of machines, and you know we had to have this. She is the boss of all the Phyrexians. And by the way, Phyrexians are one of my favorite creature groups in Magic of all time. People love dinosaurs, people love goblins, people love elves. I've always loved Phyrexians. I love evil, nasty things, and that's the Phyrexians. They want to take over the entire universe. So we got Elesh Norn, the mother of machines. Vigilance, if a permanent enters the battlefield, if a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Permanents entering the battlefield don't cause abilities of permanents your opponents control to trigger. Next, and arguably more powerful than Elesh Norn, Sheoldred the Apocalypse, certainly more powerful in the card. This might be one of the most powerful black cards ever created. Death Touch, and whenever you draw a card, you gain 2 life. Whenever an opponent draws a card, they lose 2 life. One of the best dragons ever, Skilderix the Blight Dragon. Flying, Infect. You pay 1, it can gain haste till the end of the turn. You pay 2, you regenerate it. Thrumming Bird, necessary in a Proliferate deck. Whenever Thrumming Bird deals combat damage to a player, Proliferate. The Blighted Agent, Infect, and it's unblockable. The Voidwing Hybrid, flying, toxic 1. When you proliferate, return Voidwing Hybrid from the graveyard to your hand. Plague Mirror, a bit of mana ramp and Infect. Skrelv, Deflector Might, toxic 1. Look at the printing of that card too. I love the foiling on it. It can't block, but you pay a mana or a couple of life. You choose a color. Another target creature you control gains toxic 1 and hexproof from that color until the end of turn. Can't be blocked by creatures of the color this turn. Evolution Sage. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, proliferate. Izuri, Stalker of Spheres. You can proliferate twice if you pay a little bit of extra mana. Venerated Rot Priest, toxic 1. And whenever a creature you control becomes the target of a spell, target opponent gets a poison counter. I was so excited when Modern Horizons 3 came out, especially for this card. Now, it's an uncommon, and people might not have been that excited for this, but me, with this deck, this is the card I wanted most. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, proliferate. Again, this deck is built on poison counters and proliferation. Technical Foe. All right, flying. If you proliferate twice instead. If you remove 3 counters from it, or remove 3 counters from among other artifacts, creatures, and planeswalkers you control, put an indestructible counter on it. Tyrannix Rex, love the foiling on this card again. This spell can't be countered. Trample, Toxic 4, Warn 4, Haste. Greatest mana dork of all time, Birds of Paradise. And I've got some other mana dorks in here. I have the Delighted Halfling, Really great ability to make your spells uncounterable. We have the Noble Hierarch, another great mana dork. And listen, I struggle to put these in, honestly. When I build decks, I like to stick to themes. Like I want my humans to be humans. I want my vampires to be vampires. But the reality is, you're building a deck with 4 colors. You do need some versatile mana ramp from your creatures. And so these had to be included. And they're all 1-drop, which is also important. I like the total mana value of my decks to be under 200. Now, what's mana value? It is all the symbol. And a sneak peek of the next card here. It is all the mana symbols of the cards added together. So this is 6 plus 1 is 7. So the total mana value in this deck is 190. For a deck to be really playable, for it to be really competitive, it's got to be under 200, in my opinion. And so these do a couple of things. One, they help with the mana fixing problem with a 4-color deck. Whenever I build a 4 or 5-color deck, you will almost always see like the Noble Hierarch, the Ignoble Hierarch, the Bloom Tender, things like that. But it also keeps the mana value low, all right? Phyrexian Swarmlord. Infect, and at the beginning of your upkeep, put a 1/1 green insect creature token with Infect onto the battlefield for each poison counter your opponents have. Maybe the best Elish Norn of all time, Elish Norn Grand Cenobite. Vigilant and other creatures you control get +2/+2. Creatures your opponents control get -2/-2. Blightsteel Colossus. What else can I say about the Blightsteel Colossus, right? Trample, Infect, it has Indestructible. It doesn't go in your graveyard. It goes back in your library. Just an absolute monster of a card. I build a Phyrexian deck. I build an artifact deck. It is going in. The Might Overseer. First strike, as long as it's your turn, creature tokens you control get +1/+0 and have first strike. And then you can create a 1/1 colorless Phyrexian Might artifact creature with Toxic 1. Phyrexian Metamorph, great blue card. You can have it enter the battlefield as a copy of any artifact or creature on the battlefield, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. I must put that in any blue deck I ever build. Super underrated card. Yagla Thran Physician, protection from humans. Pay 1 life, sacrifice another creature, put a -1/-1 counter up to 1 target card and draw a card. And you can use it to proliferate. Again, that proliferate feature. A lot of cards in this deck. I wasn't kidding. When I said if you want to build a proliferate deck, you want to build a counter deck, you want to build a poison deck, you want to build an Atraxa deck, like this is one-stop shopping. All right? Bloated Contaminator, Trample, Toxic 1. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, proliferate. Contaminate Grafter. Trample, Toxic 1. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to 1 or more players, proliferate. At the beginning of your end step, if an opponent has 3 or more poison counters, draw a card. Then you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. Vorinclex, a way to make more counters and prevent your opponents from making more counters. A monster green card. I think this goes for about $50 and is an incredible include in almost any green deck ever, especially I've got this in my counters deck. I use it in my proliferate deck. I use it in my Sylvana deck. I use it in my Marwyn deck. It is unreal. And then we have Elish Norn. Another Elish Norn. We needed another one. Again, it's a Phyrexian deck. This is just a straight up Elish Norn, all right? Whenever an opponent deals damage to you or a permanent you control, that source's controller loses 2 life unless they pay 1. You can sacrifice 3 other creatures. You exile Elish Norn and return it as Argent Etchings. All right. I love these 2-sided cards. Incubate 2 5 times and transform all incubator tokens you control. Creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain double strike till the end of turn. And you can destroy all other permanents except for artifacts, lands, and Phyrexians. That's a huge asymmetric board wipe. And exile the Argent Etchings and return it to the battlefield face up. So those are my creatures. There's 27 standard creatures in this deck. That's not including the commander. By the way, if you want a copy of this deck list, you can go in the show notes and see it in my Mox field. So we have done the commander. We've done the creatures. We've done the planeswalkers. Time for the enchantments. Phyrexian Arena. You know this had to be in here. Extra card draw. Smothering Tithe. Great card and a game changer. Way to make some treasure tokens. Treasure tokens are super useful in this deck because it is 4 colors. Skrell's Hive. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose a life and create a 1/1 colorless Phyrexian Might artifact creature token with Toxic 1, and this creature can't block. And then Corrupted, as long as an opponent has 3 or more poison counters, creatures you control with Toxic have life link, so the life loss isn't a big deal. And trust me, you play against me, you will have more than 3 poison counters. And then me, meanest, nastiest, saltiest card in Magic history, Darksteel Mutation. That might be a bit of a stretch, but this card is really, really nasty. It will basically enchant a creature, and it turns it into an insect artifact creature with base power toughness 0/1. It'll have indestructible, and it loses all other abilities, card types, and creature types. You put this on somebody's commander, it is a bad, bad, bad day for them. I put that in every white deck that I have. Let me reach over here. Let's get our artifacts. And yeah, again, don't sleep on that. Put that in your white decks. It's a really mean, nasty card and will win you the game more often than not. We have a bunch of mana ramp stuff in here. We have the Talisman of Curiosity, the Talisman of Dominance, the Talisman of Progress. You can tell I love talismans, all right? We have an Arcane Signet. We have the greatest piece of mana ramp of all time, the Soul Ring. We have a Felwar Stone. Add 1 mana of any color that a land an opponent produces could control. Love this in a 5-color deck. We have a few more. All right, we have the Ever-Flowing Chalice. Now, in a normal deck, this is okay. In Proliferate deck, this is a monster. Multi-kicker 2, you may pay an additional 2 any number of times as you cast this spell. It enters the battlefield with a charge counter on it for each time it was kicked. And then you can add a mana for each charge counter on Ever-Flowing Chalice. And with Proliferate, this is going to have a ton of counters on it. So this becomes a monster. All right, then we have the Commander's Sphere in a 4 or 5 color deck. I absolutely love this card. And I love that you can sacrifice it and draw a card. Panharmonicon, old school card. I can't remember if it was Ether Revolt or Kaladesh. I think it was Kaladesh. It was first featured. If an artifact or creature entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Norn's Wellspring. Whenever a creature you control dies, scry 1 and put an oil counter on Norn's Wellspring. Remove 2 oil counters from Norn's Wellspring. Draw a card. I love card draw. You can never have too much card draw in a commander deck, in my opinion. Sword of Forge and Frontier. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 as protection from red and from green. Whenever a equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You can play those cards this turn. You may play an additional land this turn. Portal of Phyrexia. Monster card from the Brothers' War. When Portal of Phyrexia enters the battlefield, each opponent sacrifices 3 creatures. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. It's a Phyrexian, in addition to its other types. Umezawa's Jit. Whenever a equipped creature deals combat damage, you put 2 charge counters on it. Remove a charge counter from it. Choose 1. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 till the end of turn. Target creature gets -1/-1 till the end of turn. Or you gain 2 life. Monster weapon with Proliferate. Versus Incubator. You're building a creature-based deck. Not a creature-based deck, a kinfolk creature-based deck. This is an absolute auto-include. Make all your stuff cheaper. Glistening Sphere. Glistening Sphere enters the battlefield tapped. When Glistening Sphere enters the battlefield, Proliferate. That's what I want. Add 1 mana of any color and add 3 mana of any color. Activated only if an opponent has 3 or more poison counters. Again, you're going to have more poison counters if you're playing against this deck. And the Contagion Engine. You know this had to make an appearance. A lot of you were probably guessing this was in here. When Contagion Engine enters the battlefield, put a -1/-1 counter on each creature target player controls. And then you pay 4, you can proliferate, then proliferate again. So a great assortment of artifacts for the Atraxa deck. And now, for the Sorceries instance, we have a counterspell. You can never have too many counterspells. You want to be able to handle what other people are doing. Here's one. Prologue to Phyresis. Each opponent gets a poison counter, and you draw a card. Strix Serenade, another great counterspell. One of the best removal spells in Magic history. Sunfall. I said earlier the Darksteel Mutation might be the saltiest card in Magic history. It actually might be this one. Exile all creatures. People hate this card, by the way. Like, they hate it. I bet you're having a visceral reaction to it right now. If you hate this card, tell me in the comments below, because this is the bane of many people's existence. Exile all creatures. Incubate X, where X is the number of creatures exiled this way. Fantastic board wipe. White Sun's Twilight. You gain X life. Create X 1/1 colorless Phyrexian Might artifact creature tokens with toxic 1. This creature can't block. If X is more than 5, destroy all other creatures. Another mean board wipe. Great counterspell. We have a tutor, the Vampire Tutor. You need tutors in your decks. Thoughtseize, all right? Good way to get a player to reveal their hand, so you get to look at their hand, and then you can get rid of a card from it. Pest Control, another amazing board wipe, especially for those people that play the Aristocrat decks. Notice the colors in it, right? But you can get rid of a lot of people's creatures. So I love that card. Another tutor, Insatiable Avarice. Now you might be asking, why the Insatiable Avarice? Why not throw a better tutor in there, like a Diabolic Intent or a Imperial Seal? I only have so many of them. These are real decks. I didn't mention this at the start, but these are my real decks that I play with, and I only have so many Imperial Seals, and they're already used in other decks. I have over 50 full Commander decks, and so I only have so many cards. Now, I happen to be lucky and have a bunch of Demonic Tutors. I have like 19 or 20 of them or something like that, but Imperial Seal, I'm a little light on them, so I went with the Budget Tutor, the Insatiable Avarice. Path Exile, another great removal spell, and then Toxic Deluge, another board wipe. I have board wipes in this deck. This is me. This is not dice. I bet you would not like to play against this deck. So we've covered Commander, we've covered the Planeswalkers, artifacts, creatures, enchantments, sorceries, and instants. Now for some lands. We have some basic lands here. All right, I love these Phyrexian Oil Slicks. I would put them in every deck I had. I wish I would have bought more of the bundles. That was a mistake not buying more. And then we have all the non-basic lands. We have Reflecting Pool. I'll get through these pretty fast. Mirrex, Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, the City of Brass, one of those dual-sided lands, the Branch Loft Pathway, the Hennegate Pathway. I love these from Kaldheim. We've got the Blooming Marsh. We have the Clearwater Pathway. We have the Bright Climb Pathway. We have the Bark Channel. We have all the pathways, by the way. We have the Deserted Beach. We have the Marsh Flats. We have the Command Tower. Gemstone Mine. Talk about that for a minute. It enters with 3 mining counters on it. You remove a mining counter from it, and you can add 1 mana of any color. There are no mining counters on it. You sacrifice it. Well, you're not going to have to sacrifice it because Proliferate. So we're going to be good. Karn's Bastion, Proliferate. Love it. Slitherboard Pathway. I told you we had all the pathways. Willow Rust Verge. Cavern Souls. Ultra necessary in any Kinfolk type deck, whether it's monocolored or 5 colors. Battlefield Promenade. The Thuran Quarry. The Mycosynth Gardens. All right. We've got the Spire of Industry, the Polluted Delta. We have the Rejuvenating Springs. We have the Sea of Clouds, Sea Chrome Coast, the Tendo Ice Bridge. Useful in a lot of decks, but super useful in a Proliferate deck. It enters with a charge counter on it. You remove a charge counter, you add a mana of any color. Well, we're going to have a lot of counters on this with all the Proliferate features in this deck. Again, I told you, this deck was built around proliferation. We have the Thespian Stage, super useful utility land. The Maze of Ith, a way to untap target attacking creature, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt by that creature this turn. So great card for a little bit of defense. This card saved me more times than I can, not this card. The Maze of Ith has saved me more times than I can count. The Morphic Pool, the Breeding Pool, and the Dark Slick Shores. There you have it. Best Phyrexian deck that you've ever seen. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Might not be the best Phyrexian deck you've ever seen, but it's the best Proliferating Poison counter deck you've ever seen. This was carefully constructed and carefully put together. And that's what I love doing. I love building decks. And that's what this show's all about. It's about building decks. It's about learning synergies, learning strategies, helping people be better at Magic. And honestly, just sharing a love of this game with you. This has been a passion of mine for 30 years. And I haven't always talked about it. I haven't been a creator in the space. To be honest with you, it was a very private part of my life. I fought in the UFC. I was featured in Men's Health a bunch of times. I did a bunch of other stuff. I won a World Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Championship, but Magic, I've always played. Like when I was at UFC 58, I had a deck of cards. When I was at Ultimate Fight Night 5, I brought a deck of cards with me, and I've always loved it. And it's something I was hesitant to talk about because it was like the last really private portion of my life, right? But a couple of friends of mine saw how passionate I was about it and how much I loved it, and they convinced me to start making content about it. They said, you have such a massive collection. You love the game so much. You really should broadcast it to the world. And so here we are. I am here to show you my love of Magic. And here's the best part about this. These are real cards. There's no proxies. I'm not using graphics. I'm not doing a ton of editing. It's just a real guy showing you his real collection and his real passion for the game. So thank you for coming by. If you want to see the show notes, go down in the show notes. You get a deck list. There's all kinds of other goodies down there. And please leave me a comment and let me know what you would add to this deck. Like, that's the best part of this. You got to understand. I post these videos up and I monitor the comments. People like, you should put this card in. You should put this card in. And I go change my deck, right? Like, I am excited to change my deck and add things to it. So you put a good, you put a good card recommendation in the comments. I will probably put it in my deck and I will shout you out the next video I make. So Thank you for being part of my community. I love you. I love this game, and stay tuned for the next episode.